Hi, Steve here from 3D-Hub. Today's video tutorial is about how to make things appear and disappear within the 3D-Hub player. What we'll also have a quick look at is how to make multiple things happen at once using action set lists. So the first thing we'll do is we'll open up PowerPoint, and if you're familiar with the process, we're going to open one of the FXP lessons that you would have downloaded. Now what you do have to remember is when you've installed these lessons, all the assets will be dropped into the relevant places and a PowerPoint file will be located in the same directory as the FXP file. So once you've installed the FXP file, that's it, you can operate using the PowerPoint file and all the assets that have been pre-installed. So the first thing we'll do here is just see how this lesson runs. For those of you who've done parts 1 and 2, this will be very familiar to you. Now if we go FX full screen, again we have the interactivity, you can move it around with the mouse, and you obviously have the ability to move the pyramid around and rotate the torus and stop the rotation of the torus. The additional feature here, as you can see, is a minus button. If we press the minus button, not only does the pyramid disappear, but the torus starts to spin. And when we press the plus button, which brings back the pyramid, as you saw there, the torus stops spinning. So again, if we just go for that again, press the minus, torus starts to spin, pyramid disappears, and press the plus, the reverse happens. So that's what we're trying to achieve with the lesson, is how that interaction with that button works. So if we come out of that, click OK, and we open up 3D Studio Max. I've already opened up Lessons 3 Max file, and if we zoom in, we'll just hide the grid, spin this round, you can see we've got the camera in the center there, we've got the pyramid, we've got the torus, we've still got the positional blends, positions for the action set to move the pyramid, and we also have the dummies there which gave the torus its rotational state. So the only addition to this file really are these two geometric boxes over here. You'll notice that they're not dummies, they're actually 3D Studio Max geometry, purely because you can't give 3D Studio Max dummies a visibility state. They simply don't have one. So the first thing you'll notice, if we open up Max Script and we open up the action sets part of the user defined properties Max Script and interrogate the geometry by pressing the get action scripts, you'll see here our action sets clip attribute is set to visibility. Now this basically means that the action set that you trigger off within your PowerPoint presentation will control the visibility of the clip set target. If you remember, the clip target is the object that we ultimately try to control. So in this instance, the clip set target is the pyramid. Now we're using the blends again, it's a blending control, and we've got relative blending set to none. And the blend time is ½ a second. So when this action set is triggered, what will happen is the visibility from its current visible state will move to this visible state over a ½ second. Now the action set that we'll be calling within PowerPoint will be pyramid underscore vis on, and the clip target is pyramid. And if you remember, the pyramid is what's rotating inside the torus. So if we just zoom out, now if we click on the pyramid vis off and we get action set properties, again it shares all exactly the same properties, apart from the action set we're calling here is pyramid vis off. When we trigger the action set from within PowerPoint, what will happen is the pyramid, from whichever visibility state it's currently in, will then blend over ½ a second to the visible state of this box, which is invisible. Now just moving this out of the way, if we go to the curve editor, you can see here If we go down to the visible curves and just zoom in, you can see that the two keyframes set for this box is 0, and if we click on that one, you can see here the two keyframes are set to keyframe to be 1. Obviously, if we set the keyframe of the visibility to 0.5, the visibility of the pyramid would end up with 50% transparency. Okay, so if we export this scene and click the export and go back into PowerPoint, what we'll do here is we'll delete that last button and we'll reprogram the button from scratch. So advanced slide options, back to dynamic UI controls. The first thing we're trying to do is obviously insert a toggle button. The control ID for this will be pyramid viz. We don't know what the initial state of the button is going to be at the moment, and we also don't want to include what the commands are because it's much easier to do when we're in the FX edit mode, because then we can interrogate the scene. What we can do is select the type of button that we want to put on, and the UI toggle that we're putting there is the -+ sign, and insert button, and there we have the button. Now if we go to FX edit and go full screen, there's the button. It toggles, but it doesn't do anything. Its initial position when we entered full screen mode was minus. That's its state 1, which just so happens to be the correct state, because what we want to do is use the minus button to take the pyramid away. So if we hold Control down and click on the minus button, that brings up the UI authoring dialog box. So initial state is 1, which is fine, and then we need to tell it what we want it to do when we click on that initial state. So in this instance, we click on that and we select the action set command list. We want the visibility to turn off, so pyramid viz off, and if we click on it again, we want the torus to spin. Now this is what we call as an action set list, and you can add as many items to this list as you want, and they all get basically fired off with the one command. So for that we'll click OK, and then state 2, which will be the plus state of the toggle button, what we want is the torus to stop dead, and we also want the pyramid to come back on, so pyramid viz on. And as you can see here, that's actually the command string, as it were, for these things to happen. So update this button, and you'll notice when I press it now, or when I at least roll over it, the cursor changes state. If I press the minus button, the torus starts to spin and the pyramid disappears. And if I press plus, the torus stops and the pyramid comes back. Again, all the other functionality that we programmed in the previous lessons is also there. It's just the additional functionality of the visibility action set and the list, controlling two separate functions with the one button. And that's it. That's visibility and how to include action set lists. One thing that is worth mentioning, if we go back to 3D Studio Max just quickly, just close down the curve editor and minimize the user defined properties, you'll notice that the boxes that we're using for the visibility blends are off to one side. This is because we don't actually want to see them when we orbit the camera around the objects. So as you can imagine, if this camera was to orbit, these boxes would still be out of view of the camera because anything beyond the clipping plane is not visible.